Are you going to give her a really rousing welcome? All right, opening the doors this evening on We the Women is actor Janhvi Kapoor. Can we please welcome her on stage? Louder welcome, louder welcome. Thank you for coming. And we just want you to present an award to these two girls who've come from Barmer, whose cricket sort of prowess even got the attention of Sachin Tendulkar. So can we please request you? Yeah. I've heard so much. Let's have a big round of applause for all. Thank you. Thank you. आ जाओ, नीचे आ जाओ. Okay, can we officially and properly welcome Janhvi to our stage now? It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to have you here. I know we have like 20 minutes with you because you've got a flight to catch. You're in between films and projects. Is your life normally this crazy?
It's normally crazier.
How? What's a typical day in Janhvi Kapoor's life?
I think a lot of it depends on the films that I'm doing at the moment. But right now, I've been shooting this film called Mr. and Mrs. Mahi, which when it comes out, please, all of y'all watch it.
All of them will watch, right? Right.
I've been prepping for it for 2 years now, and it's very prep intensive. I've actually had to learn cricket for it, and
oh, well then that
yeah,
makes
exactly. So I was very
perfect.
excited to meet her, and yeah, so a lot of that prep took up my time in these 2 years, and yeah, and then it's between films, between events, between shoots, between making time for my family.
And you are very family oriented.
Yes.
And this past few weeks, you've posted about your mother, and whom we know as my generation, and I think generations down, adored her. That must have been really, 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 really tough. I lost my mom when I was 13, so I have some sense of, you know, how abandoned by the universe you must have felt. How did you cope with it?
You know, Barkha ma'am, I don't think I did. For a very long time, I don't think I went about it in the way that one should have gone about it.
In what way?
I think for me, there were many things. So I feel like when we had her, my life was completely different. And when we lost her, I was bang in the middle of the shoot of my first film. And then the film came out, and then my life changed. So it was almost as if the life I was leading before was this idealistic, fictional life that now I feel like I never really had it, because what I'm living right now is so different. And so the way I think I coped with that loss was that I just dove into work, because the last few months before she passed, she just kept saying, "You've chosen to do this, give it your best, give it your best, give it your best." And so that's the only thing I'd keep hearing in my head. One of the last conversations I had with her was about...
I have to come and sit with you. You know, because you immersed yourself in work, basically. Yeah. Why I came to you was, I lost my dad to COVID in the second wave. And the only way I knew how to deal with it was to keep working. And I'm kind of sort of seeing you cope with loss in the same way, but it catches up with you, doesn't it?
It does, and you know, that's what happened during COVID, because I was forced to spend a minute with myself and a minute with my thoughts, and I realized actually how damaged I was. I realized how I was just...
Blocking it out?
Yeah, I was like almost like a zombie. I was just on a hamster wheel, doing things I didn't even need to do, like in a race that I didn't need to be in, mentally with myself. And seeking the company of people that I didn't really even want in my life, just to like fill a void. And I think another aspect of it that I reflected on and that I think really messed me up was that the validation and approval that I sought out from my mother, that I think all of us do from our parents, I gave the audience that responsibility. So I started seeking that from them.
And then feeling terrible if it didn't come.
Exactly, because I mean, not everyone in the world is gonna love you like they're your mother. And I started, so when my first film came out, I was just like, you know, I'll get the audience's love through mom and it'll be her, and that was stupid of me. Because A, it was my first film, and B, like, you know, with the baggage of privilege and everything, not everyone's like out to love you. And I could have done a better job also. So there were a lot of those aspects.
But you know, it isn't easy being who you are, coming on this stage and owning up to the damaged dimensions that we all carry. We're all damaged in different ways. So thank you for sharing that. What do you, when you close your eyes and you think of your mom, what do you remember?
I just remember her calling me Laddu, because she used to call me Laddu.
That's so sweet.
And it's so weird, ma'am, because every time I'm on set and I'm in front of the camera in my most vulnerable moments, I feel like in front of the camera is the closest that I'll ever be to her. And that's why it's such a sacred space for me.
How did you move past that space of being damaged, of seeking validation from the audience, of hanging out with people you didn't even really like? Have you moved beyond it?
I think so. I think that, I mean, I want to say it happens with age and it happens with experience, but really it also happens with observing your thoughts and observing where your mind's at. And I think one of the perks of COVID was that all of us, like I said, had to spend so much time with our thoughts. Of course, the ones that, you know, had the luxury to do so because it was such a hard time for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of our heal. I don't even think I can call it healing because it's not something you can ever heal from, but I think it was the way that me and my family coped with it. I think I realized things that I would have never realized before, and it was this sense of guilt also, that when I lost mom, of course it was this huge tragedy and there's this feeling of it being a hole in my heart, but there was this horrible feeling of like, okay, something bad's happened. So to justify all of the great things in my life, all of this privilege and all of this, oh, you've gotten everything so easy that I've heard my entire life, I'm like, okay, now something bad's happened. Like, I deserve this. Like, I deserve this horrible thing that's happened to me. So it was this weird sense of like relief,
I mean,
which was so disgusting to deal with.
You thought you were being punished for your privilege.
Yeah, which is such a weird thing to process as a young girl, trying to process even being a young girl in this world. So it was a lot.
And I'm sorry you had to go through all that, but what I want to ask you is, you know, it's not that after your mom died, people were necessarily kind. They may have been kinder in the aftermath, but you know, with this whole big nepotism debate, you've spoken about how sometimes you've had to confront some really horrible, nasty things. What is the most hurtful thing you've read about yourself, heard about yourself, that really got under your skin?
I mean, people think of new things every day. Honestly, I feel like we must applaud them for their creativity. But, you know, if you would have asked me this question a couple of months ago, I would have probably been able to give you an answer. But I think at this point, I'm immune to it a little bit. To some extent, to a good extent, that I don't even let it permeate into my head. So I can't answer it. But I remember at one point there were, I think I'd read something like, thank God your mom passed before seeing you do such shitty work or something like that, which, I mean, was bad.
We all get trolled. At all ages, stages, all women in the public space get trolled. But you're young. And one forgets that about actors, that they may be all these superstars, but they're young. You're a young woman. And these things can leave a scar. Have you been scarred by the trolling, the nepotism, sort of barbs? How do you deal or wrestle with the whole nepotism question?
You know, I think all of us, no matter how privileged or unprivileged or whatever sphere of life or work you're in, you deal with some kind of trauma. So I don't know how alienating it might seem for me to sit here and talk about like, I'm traumatized in my designer sari and like taking like a first class flight to shoot in a dharma film. Like it's not relatable.
But by the way,
that.
That's very sort of ironic and, you know, obviously you do turn the lens back on yourself.
It's important to do that and recognize that, but it is just as important to recognize that trauma doesn't always mean the struggle to put food on your table. That might be the most relatable struggle, but it is not the only struggle. And I think that's also something I needed to realize, that I don't need to be apologetic about things, because I was invalidating every time I felt belittled or every time I felt hurt. So your question was how I deal with it?
Or when it's really hurtful, does it scar you? And how do you deal with the whole, I was asking you how you deal with the whole nepotism tag. I personally find it quite a strange debate because obviously the door may get opened more easily for someone who's from the industry, but after that you're on your own.
I think my only argument to that is I don't want anyone to love me because of my privilege, but I don't think it's okay to hate someone because of that privilege either.
I agree.
And I think that we all recognize the advantage that one has to come from a background like this. But like I said, it's an unrelatable journey to know what it's like to have that advantage and still navigate your way. And I'm not taking it away from, the millions of people that stand in lines, audition and don't get a chance. Like that must be way worse.
Yeah.
But, it's not a it's not a cakewalk for sure. And the way that I deal with it is I just work. Like I think my art means too much to me for me to be like, no, I know I'm good. Trollers are gonna troll, like whatever. I need to work. So if there's even an iota of truth in what they're saying, I need to work at it because my cinema, art, all of this means too much for me to, that's how I channel it. That's how I grow from it.
And, you say that basically do you feel like you have to work harder to prove your detractors wrong, or have you learned to ignore your detractors?
No, I don't want to ignore them ever. I mean...
You should.
I don't think so. I feel like it's so easy in this industry to like be detached from reality and think that you're the coolest person on the planet, that sometimes you need people to bring you back down to reality. So yeah, I don't ignore them.
So tell me, how do you keep yourself real? I ask you this because, like you said, you have that self-awareness. You made a almost funny comment about your own designer saris, going first class to shoot a Dharma film, all that. But there is a part of even a celebrity's life that is their own. And in that space, they need to feel safe. They need to feel that the people they're meeting are not talking to them for who, because you're Janhvi Kapoor, because you're Janhvi. How do you keep parts of your life untouched by fame and all the trappings that come with being a star?
I think to just protect like who you are and your soul, and I don't think you can really protect your privacy beyond a level. But I think the way I do it is that I still have the same friends that I've had since the second grade. I still value my me time. I still recognize that the reason that I'm doing this is because of my love for the art form and not because of the perks of it. And yeah, that I feel like being here with you, being on the cover of magazines, getting papped outside the gym, these are all consequences of the job. You can't be Khokla and not do the job and then get all of this and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
So the focus needs to be the job, and then I think all of this noise you can enjoy it for what it is, but this is the stuff. I keep saying this, I don't mean this talk.
I get it.
This is the stuff that I think can take you away from reality a little bit.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your films. You've tried to, in a way, pick up some very interesting projects that have put the stories of women at the center of their storytelling, whether it was Gunjan or Millie. Are you conscious and mindful today, even as a young woman? In earlier generations, you would have actors having to go through a certain kind of formulaic film, and then they would pick up the scripts they really like. Today, you're trying to be very mindful, I think, of the projects you're picking up. How do you approach a script, and what makes you decide today whether you would take it or not?
I've been persuaded time and again to take the more conventional formulated films because that is a more organic choice and an easier choice.
But you haven't done that.
I haven't, and honestly, I'm not saying I don't ever want to because I think there's a fun in that as well. And going on set and crying every day is getting kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
So I just want to look pretty and like make people laugh also.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it comes down to many things. I think once you know, the character and the story is well written on script, it makes my job as an actor easier. So I like having that security of a female character that I know I can learn and grow from. Also, I think it might hurt my ego a little bit to be inconsequential in a film because I believe I have more to offer and I want to prove to myself that I can take up a challenge and emerge from it. I don't know if I've been successful at it, but I've attempted it. Because like I said, I think somewhere or the other it comes down to the fact that मतलब मुझे मौके बहुत आसानी से मिले लेकिन इज्जत अभी तक नहीं मिली है. So I think that's what I'm working for, in my own eyes.
Why do you feel कि इज्जत अभी तक नहीं मिली? You want to be recognized in a certain way, is what I'm understanding.
I think it takes people...
Beyond being a star, you want to be appreciated for talent, for being something beyond what the paps capture on camera.
I think that, and I can't blame anyone, but it takes a lot to build perception and then break it. And I think that along with the privilege, I was born with the perception that was created.
Yeah.
And I think to break that, it'll take a lot of work.
How do you deal with living in the fishbowl with cameras in your face? You come out of your house, you go to the gym, you go out for a meal, there are cameras. And I'll tell you why I asked this. I suddenly had a flash when Sridevi died, when your mom died. Some of the TV channels were disgusting. And there was this horrible, horrible kind of speculative reporting on how she died, the circumstances of her death. And I can't even imagine. I mean, I remember writing an article at that time saying, not just Sridevi, the news died today. Because I was so disgusted. Do you remember that? Do you remember how it was reported? Or you were too, I guess, gutted to pay
I don't
attention?
think I wasn't in the frame of mind to watch TV. I think, honestly, I don't remember anything. I think that entire month was a blur for me. I think for a long time after that also was a blur. Ironically, the only things that I remember from that entire time was when I was on set shooting for Dhadak. Like, I remember those days specifically, but nothing after or before that.
You know, you've been so open in this conversation, owning your damage, your vulnerability, your need for validation at different times, you're seeking respect, the kind of movies you want to do. And I'm seeing the clock, and I know you have a flight to catch to Ahmedabad, and we have 3 minutes. But I want to hear about how you learned how to play cricket. And if you don't mind, I don't know if Moomal is still here. Is Moomal still here? Is Moomal, our bat girl, still here? Does anyone know? Does anyone know if she's still here? If she is, please send her up on stage, because I wanted to know from you how you're doing, how you're approaching learning how to play cricket at 25.
I was the last person to play sports in school. And I am the least likely candidate to have picked this film or to have said yes to it or to have been because I realized I dislocated both my shoulders while prepping for the film, which is why it took so long.
Good God.
I was doing a switch hit, my right shoulder popped out. I was doing a pull or a long on and my left shoulder popped out. So I had to take a gap for three months, and then the doctor said you have something called MDI, which is multi-directional instability, which means I'm susceptible to like my joints popping out apparently. So he was like, you are the worst candidate for this film. But
how long did it take you to, like, obviously you never played before, I'm gathering. So how long did it take you to pick up the skills? That's why I wanted the Moomal whom you awarded. She's like, you know, a teenage girl and she's swinging her bat like
I
a star.
heard she's a power
Please do
hitter.
try and find her if you can, but go ahead. How long did it take you to?
It took me, so I started with a season, I worked my way up to a season ball and a heavy bat, and then my injuries happened, and then I wasn't allowed to play with that anymore. But I have a wonderful coach, Abhishek Nair and Vikrant. They train KKR, and so I think they've done a great job. They've definitely kept up my morale and my love for the sport. I actually didn't even know the game before I started, but now I've developed a love for it.
Do you watch it now?
I do. I do. I keep observing people now.
What is the one sort of dream project you would want to do or you would have wanted to do that hasn't come your way?
I think I really want to do a comedy now.
Like your mom.
Yes.
I mean, she had impeccable
Comic timing, yeah. I think I really want to do a comedy, and I would really love to do a film in which I can dance because I love dancing. And I haven't been given the opportunity
This crowd
yet.
would want you to dance right here, but you... Do we have a track? Choose a track. We have 1 minute 35 seconds.
Yeah, okay, you all choose quickly.
Choose a track
But all my
quickly.
dances are very like thumka thumka. It's like
okay,
I have
1
to be
minute.
sophisticated
Mumal,
here.
Mumal. 1 minute before the track. Come here. Mumal, जल्दी से आओ. ये जो जानवी दीदी है ना, ये ना क्रिकेट खेलना सीख रही है. तो मुझे लगा कि आप ही इनको सिखा दो.
कोई टिप्स दीजिए.
कोई
मैंने
tips
सुना बहुत छक्के मारते हैं आप.
कुछ बताओ कोई टिप.
आपका फेवरेट शॉट क्या है वो बताइए.
मेरे लेग साइड में जो छक्का लगाते हैं
लॉन्ग साइड. मेरा लॉन्ग ऑन में ही गड़बड़ है. मेरा बैट अंदर जाता है.
लेग साइड में जो सूर्य कुमार खेलते हैं ना
सूर्य कुमार यादव को जानती हूँ मैं. वो अलग अलग स्ट्रोक्स मारते हैं ना वो. उनका वो ऐसे कुछ करते हैं वो देखा और ऐसे स्कूप करके पीछे बॉल फेंकते हैं.
तो आप कोई टिप दे दो जानवी जी को. आपने कैसे सीखा क्रिकेट?
मुझे तो मेरे भाई ने सिखाया और
भाई ने सिखाया.
हाँ,
आपके भाई का नंबर मुझे भी दे दीजिएगा. जरूरत पड़ेगी.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
32 seconds. Choose a track before we let her go. 32 seconds. Anyone? Track? Okay, play whatever you have.
All very.
Play whatever you have. She is.
Okay, but Barkha ma'am, even you have to dance.
That's one
Please,
skill.
no, you have to make also dance.
That's one skill I don't have. There we go. Thank you, Janhvi, for being such a good sport. But before you go, can we please have on stage the Dainik Bhaskar team, Varesh Tiwari and Abhishek Srivastav. We would like to honor you, Janhvi, with our award. The Her Award, Hope, Empower, Rise for being a woman of impact in 2023.
Thank you so much.
This is the Dainik Bhaskar team. And please, aap
Hello,
award pesh
hello.
karein. And they also want to present to you a poster of their Women of the Year awards
Oh, wow.
that is being unveiled. So, let's have a big round of applause.
Thank
आप
you.
कुछ कहना
आप हेलो आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं वुमेन्स ऑफ द ईयर और वुमेन्स डे की. ऑल द बेस्ट. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is their
Thank you.
poster for their awards coming up. And this is an award from all of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
Thank you. And please stop calling me ma'am. I feel so old. But thank you for being so authentic, so vulnerable, so open. And don't miss your flight. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Go out this way. This way.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.